can you be my boyfriend?
Caroline Hayes smoothed down her uniform one more time, checking her reflection in the polished brass panel beside the restaurant entrance. The Meridian was the most exclusive establishment in the city, all crystal chandeliers and leather upholstery, where a single meal cost more than she made in a week. She'd worked there for 2 years, saving every penny she could toward her dream of opening a small bakery. At 28, she'd learned to move through this world of wealth with quiet grace, serving people who barely noticed her except to snap their fingers for more wine. Tonight was different, though. Tonight, her hands trembled slightly as she tied her apron. Her younger sister's wedding was in 3 weeks. Jessica had fallen in love with a man from one of the city's prominent families, and the engagement had thrust their modest middle-class family into a social circle they'd never inhabited before. Jessica's future in-laws were kind enough, but their friends were a different story, full of subtle judgments and raised eyebrows. At the engagement party last month, Caroline had endured endless questions about her own romantic life, thinly veiled pity about her being single, assumptions that she must be desperate or defective. One woman had actually patted her hand and said, "Don't worry, dear, there's someone for everyone, even at your age." Caroline's mother had begged her to bring a date to the wedding, just so they stopped treating you like a charity case, she'd said with worried eyes. Jessica's worried they'll spend the whole reception trying to set you up with unsuitable men. But Caroline didn't have anyone to bring. She worked 6 days a week, took night classes in business management, and fell into bed exhausted most nights. Dating had fallen off her list of priorities years ago. "Table 12 needs attention," Marcus, the head server, said as he passed. "New arrival VIP treatment." Caroline nodded and made her way to table 12, her mind still spinning with wedding anxiety. The man sitting there barely glanced up from his phone as she approached. He was perhaps in his early 30s, devastatingly handsome in a tailored navy suit, with dark hair and sharp features that belonged on magazine covers. "Good evening," Caroline said with her professional smile. "Welcome to the Meridian. Can I start you with something to drink?" "Scotch neat," he said absently, still focused on his screen. "The Macallan, if you have it." "Of course, sir." As Caroline turned to leave, she heard him sigh heavily and mutter something under his breath that sounded like, "3 more hours of this nonsense." When she returned with his drink, he'd put the phone away and was staring out the window at the city lights. Up close, she could see the tension in his jaw, the weariness around his eyes. "Your scotch, sir," she said, placing it carefully on the table. "Thank you," he replied, and this time he actually looked at her. Really looked, not through her the way most wealthy patrons did. "You know what? I'll need the menu too. Might as well eat something while I'm hiding here." "Hiding, sir?" The word slipped out before Caroline could stop herself. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Is it that obvious? There's a charity gala upstairs, full of people who want something from me. I told them I needed to make a call and escape down here instead." Caroline relaxed slightly. There was something refreshingly honest in his exhaustion. "The seared duck is excellent tonight. Or if you prefer something lighter, the sea bass is beautiful." "The duck sounds perfect," he said. "And please call me Dominic. Sir makes me feel ancient." Over the next hour, Dominic lingered over his meal. The restaurant was quiet for a weeknight, and Caroline found herself returning to his table more often than strictly necessary. He asked her questions, real questions, about her work and her life. Not in the condescending way some wealthy people did, performing interest, but with genuine curiosity. "So you want to open a bakery?" he asked when she mentioned it in passing. "What's stopping you?" "Money, mostly," Caroline admitted. "I'm still about 20,000 short of what I'd need for a proper business loan. But I'm getting there. Another year, maybe 2? "That's impressive," Dominic said. "Most people just dream. You're actually building toward something." Their conversation was interrupted by a woman in a glittering evening gown appearing at the entrance to the restaurant. She spotted Dominic immediately and her face lit up with predatory interest. "There you are, Dominic," she called out, her voice carrying across the quiet space. "We've been looking everywhere for you." Dominic's entire demeanor changed, his shoulders tensing. "Veronica, I was just finishing dinner." "Well, finish it upstairs," Veronica said, moving closer. The silent auction is about to start, and everyone's asking where the eligible bachelor went. She looked at Caroline for the first time, her expression dismissive. We'll take the check now. After Dominic left, pressed back into service at the gala, Caroline tried not to think about him. Men like that existed in a different world, one where a server's conversation was just a brief entertainment before returning to their real lives. But 2 nights later, he was back. Same table, same weary expression. Duck again? Caroline asked with a small smile. Actually, I came to talk to you, Dominic said. I have a proposition that's going to sound absolutely insane, but I'm hoping you'll hear me out. Caroline's smile faded. She'd heard propositions before from wealthy men, and they never ended well. Dominic must have seen something in her expression because he quickly raised his hands. Nothing inappropriate, I promise. It's just that you mentioned your sister's wedding, and I have a similar problem. A board dinner, actually, 3 weeks from now. It's going to be full of people like Veronica, trying to set me up with their daughters, making assumptions about my personal life. I'm not sure what this has to do with me, Caroline said carefully. I'd like to hire you to be my date, Dominic said bluntly. Just for that one evening. You'd need to wear a nice dress, which I'd provide. Make conversation. Help me deflect the matchmakers. Nothing more than that. In exchange, I'd pay you $25,000. Caroline's breath caught. $25,000. More than enough to complete her bakery fund. Why me? She asked. Because you're honest, Dominic said simply. You treated me like a person the other night, not like a bank account or a trophy. And because I got the sense that you understand what it's like to be judged by circumstances rather than character. Caroline's mind raced. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. But $25,000 would change her life. My sister's wedding is the same weekend as your board dinner, she said slowly. I don't have a date either. The families are going to spend the whole time pitching me to horrible men or pitying me. Dominic leaned forward, interest sparking in his eyes. So we help each other. I'll be your date for the wedding, you'll be mine for the dinner. No money, just 2 people solving each other's problems. That's still insane, Caroline said, but she was smiling. Probably, Dominic agreed. But is it a deal? Caroline thought about her mother's worried face, about Jessica's anxiety, about having to endure another event where people treated her like a failure for being single and hardworking. She thought about Dominic's tired eyes and the genuine kindness he'd shown her. Deal, she said, extending her hand. They shook on it, and Caroline felt like she'd just stepped off a cliff, unsure if she was falling or flying. Over the next 3 weeks, they met several times to coordinate their story. How they'd met, how long they'd been dating, the kinds of details couples would know about each other. Dominic was surprisingly easy to talk to, and Caroline found herself actually enjoying their planning sessions. Tell me about your daughter, Caroline said during one of their coffee meetings. Dominic had mentioned 5-year-old Natalie in passing, and his whole face had softened. She's everything, Dominic said simply. Her mother and I divorced 2 years ago. Amicable, we just wanted different things. But Natalie is the center of my world. She's why I work so hard, why I'm building something that will last. She's lucky to have you, Caroline said. The wedding came first. Caroline introduced Dominic to her family, and she watched her mother's face light up with relief and approval. Dominic was charming without being fake, attentive without being overbearing. He made conversation with her uncle about vintage cars, complimented her grandmother's dress, and treated Jessica and her fiancé with genuine warmth. But the revelation came during the reception. A slow song started, and Dominic offered his hand. Shall we maintain appearances? He asked with a slight smile. As they moved on to the dance floor, Caroline was acutely aware of how well they fit together, how his hand felt steady and warm against her back. They'd been pretending for weeks now, practicing this relationship, but something had shifted without her quite realizing when. Thank you for this, she said quietly. My family's so happy, and for once I'm not the object of pity. You should never have been, Dominic replied, his voice low. You're building something real with your own hands. That takes more courage than most people ever find. Caroline looked up and found him watching her with an expression that had nothing to do with their arrangement. Dominic, she started, but wasn't sure how to finish. I know, he said. This wasn't supposed to be real. But Caroline, these past 3 weeks getting to know you, it's been the most genuine thing in my life in years. You see past the money and the status? You challenge me. You make me laugh. And if I'm being honest, which I promised I would be, I've been counting down to these moments when I get to see you. Caroline's heart hammered in her chest. The board dinner is next week. After that, our deal is done. It doesn't have to be, Dominic said. What if we made this real? Not an arrangement, not pretending. What if we actually tried to see where this goes? You're a CEO, Caroline said, even as hope bloomed in her chest. I'm a restaurant server trying to open a bakery. We're from completely different worlds. No, Dominic said firmly. We're both people trying to build something meaningful. We both value family and hard work and genuine connection. Those are the things that actually matter. The song ended, but they stayed on the dance floor, looking at each other while the world spun around them. I'd like that, Caroline said finally. To try something real. Dominic's smile was like sunrise, bright and full of promise. So would I. The board dinner was a week later, and this time Caroline wasn't playing a role. She was simply herself, Dominic's girlfriend, meeting the people who shaped his professional world. And when Veronica made a snide comment about Caroline's background, Dominic's response was immediate and fierce. Caroline is opening her own business through sheer determination and hard work, he said coldly. She's building something real instead of riding on family money. I'd say that makes her more impressive than most people in this room. 6 months later, Sweet Caroline's Bakery opened its doors in a charming storefront downtown. Dominic had insisted on being an investor, but only as a silent partner, letting Caroline maintain full creative control. The bakery thrived, becoming known for its honest flavors and warm atmosphere. Natalie loved visiting the bakery, standing on a stool to help Caroline frost cupcakes. And Caroline, who'd never imagined herself as a mother figure, found unexpected joy in the little girl's presence. A year after their fake date at the wedding, Dominic proposed for real. Not with an elaborate display, but simply during a quiet moment in the bakery after closing, with Natalie holding the ring box and beaming with excitement. I love you, Dominic said, not because of an arrangement or a deal, but because you're the most genuine, brave, and remarkable person I've ever met. Will you marry me? Yes, Caroline said through happy tears. 1,000 times yes. Sometimes the best relationships start with honesty about what you need. Sometimes pretending to be something you're not helps you discover who you really are. And sometimes when you're brave enough to be genuine, you find someone who loves you not despite your circumstances, but because of the strength and character those circumstances revealed. Their wedding invitation read simply, "Two people who found something real while pretending to be together request the honor of your presence as they make it official." Because the best love stories aren't about perfection or fairy tales. They're about two people seeing each other clearly and choosing to build something genuine, together. If this story reminded you that authenticity is more valuable than pretense and that real love grows from honest connection, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about unexpected romance, second chances, and finding courage to be yourself. Comment below about a time when being genuine led to something beautiful in your life. Your story might inspire someone else to take that brave first step.